Hey everyone, Christian here, and I want to make a video on two different things. One, the difference between foxtails and royals, and two, why you should never see stuff like boots hanging from these royals. They should either be on the palm or it should be on the ground. So hanging like that is only for non-crown shafted palms. So if we see here this foxtail, it has a boot and there's no petiole or rachis attached, and that's because they went ahead and trimmed it up, probably because it was hanging down here, and there's really nothing for it to hang down onto, but if it were to fall, then it would fall onto the road. So they went ahead and they trimmed it up, and now water can get into that little crevice right there, and it can cause rot in the crown shaft. And one thing foxtails don't like is a lot of water up top. You would think that they would, but they come from very seasonally dry areas and they love water down below here. So this gets irrigated. That's why these are probably looking really, really good. You can tell there's a little bit of narrowing in the rings right there, much wider right there. So if we go over to, say, this foxtail, this one doesn't have any boots attached. They haven't been trimming this one up. I assume whoever's taking care of this landscaping here is also taking care of the palms. They must trim this up, I don't know, once a month or so. Stop sign. It's a nice looking crown shaft. Virtually no difference between the rings from when it was planted. It's hard to tell when it was planted because the rings don't look like they've really narrowed, maybe a little bit right there, but that's about it. And seeing a little bit of deficiency in the leaflets, but not too much. This one looks okay. It's not a top-notch looking foxtail, but it is relatively fat. It does have a ventricose trunk, which is typical in foxtails. A lot of foxtails you'll see are just straight and narrow. So that one looks all right as well. It does need a little more water. You can see the spears are trying to open, but they usually do not wait that long before they open, which is a sign of wanting more water. So if we go over here, now these palms were planted, I think, around 2019, and I have made multiple videos on not the planting of these palms in particular, but the planting of these across here. So if we look right here, doing this on a day when it's not blazing hot, it's in the morning. Not a lot of traffic in this area because Aldi is not open yet. But now, one thing that insurance companies hate is getting a claim on someone's car getting hit by palm fronds. Now, these are not extremely heavy. This one doesn't even have any. But these, there's 4 or 5, and it just looks very artificial. And you can see that there are, if I zoom in here a little bit, you can see that there are, a little further, like 4 or 5 fronds per plant. Let me come back out here. That are just sitting there held up by some kind of bungee system. Now, I've seen this before. I really don't think it's a great idea if you're afraid of, it just doesn't look good. I'm sure there's a heightened insurance rate if you have the palms unbungeed, but they really don't. There's no really heavy area of a royal palm frond that's going to cause severe damage to a car. I think it's unlikely. You're probably better off just paying it out if it were to actually dent a vehicle. I've seen royals hit cars with their fronds and they don't do any damage. They are just kind of flat. It sounds bad, but it's kind of like slapping a car. You're not going to really put a dent in it. So if we go over here, you can see that palms will get progressively a little bit less pretty. Now, I've done, I think, at least 4 videos on these royals here. And let's talk about the difference between royals and foxtails. So royals are native to South Florida and the Caribbean. Now, in Florida in particular, these are native to Fakahatchee Strand, amongst a few other areas, but Fakahatchee Strand is a swamp. It is always wet at the roots. Royals always like wet roots. They don't mind sitting in basically water all the time. and so that's where they're native. They used to, there are notes of taken from the 19th century of there being royals along the St. Johns River south of Jacksonville, which would make sense, also a swampy area. Now these seem to get pretty good amounts of moisture down below here. You can see those roots are definitely nice and wet, and that's irrigation. There's definitely an irrigation system here. The grass would not look this nice considering how little rain we've gotten. You can see here, I think I mentioned that I thought that these palms would end up making it, but these look really bad. I mean, that doesn't looks more like a queen than it does a royal. If you're gonna plant these, they might as well have planted queens if they're gonna make it look like that. And that one looks especially sickly. Now I'm trying to find a few that actually look halfway decent. A couple over there do. But these were planted at different times. The ones over there were planted at different times than those. So these were all kind of done in segments. But you can see here this foxtail. Thankfully all these not open yet, or I would have already been run over. Hello. And here you see just sort of a mess. It looks like the main problem here is manganese. And I say that because manganese is going to cause frizzle top. You can see these are having frizzle top issues. Now, foxtails come from Queensland, northern Queensland, Australia. I believe I told the story of where they came from years ago, but there was an indigenous person, Aborigine, that was living in a retirement facility in Australia, and he told someone, I know where some of the most beautiful palms in the world grow. The guy didn't believe him at first, and so they basically decided to go out, and he wanted to be shown these plants, and so foxtails were found, I think, in the 70s. Might have been the 60s, but I believe it was the 70s. So these grow in very seasonally dry areas. They grow in sandy gravel sort of conditions along hillsides, along rivers, and so they have very, very good drainage. Now they do get a lot of water, but they have excellent drainage. These grow in swamps. These do not grow in swamps. So they look very similar. They have plumose leaflets. They have nice fat trunks. This one does not, obviously, for multiple reasons. One, it's probably not getting enough water. It's getting, a lot of these bushes are probably sucking a lot of the water out where these roots would normally take it up. If you would see flared roots out if it were getting more water. And you can see the narrowing of the trunk rings. So it's just not getting enough water. It's not getting enough nutrients as well. And that's why this one looks like crap. And so we look over here on this side of the royals, you can see again the whole bungee thing. It just doesn't look, you're taking away a lot of the regal presence of a royal when you can't see the nice lime or dark lime crown shaft. Kind of want to put that in the picture there. So again, these are going to be different than those over there. Are probably getting enough nutrients. They look halfway decent. They're not as fat as a foxtail should be, but these are not really meant to be palms planted in tight spaces. Royals need to have more room. One mistake a lot of homeowners make is they plant royals, they'll plant 8 or 10 of them in their front yard, and then there's just fronds everywhere, and they realize it's very difficult to mow around, and they will drop on their cars. So if you want to plant royals, they should be planted at a distance from a driveway, probably from the road as well. But people love the palms, and it's hard to blame them because they do look beautiful when they're done correctly. I will always love royal palms. They're always a sign of, I want to say tropical, but basically borderline tropical to tropical climate. Man, that foxtail's looking rough over there. I don't make this too long a video. Then again, why not? Looks like there's some magnolia little gems here. Bonefish isn't open, so. Now those Christmas palms are looking pretty decent. It's interesting. Some of the best looking Christmas I have ever seen are at Fairchild Botanical Garden, and they're growing in shade. They're about 30 feet tall, and they are they've been there forever, but that's where they naturally grow. So you see all these Christmas in full sun landscapes, and it's amazing that they do this well, because they're native to areas understory canopies of the Philippines. So wow, let's see what's going on. These are there's definitely some differences going on here. It looks like this is also a manganese deficiency. It looks like it's a little frizzly. It is, I don't know if it got overwatered at one point and then it seemed to have dried out, or there was a nutrient deficiency, but they shouldn't look at this bulbous. Right there is unnatural. That's somewhat normal. Now see how these are lighter colored fronds here? Those are darker ones. Now somehow that one's getting a lot more nutrients than this one, and I'm not sure why. It could be there's a bad spout here. It could be they just didn't fertilize this one. I mean, they get progressively worse too as you go down here. That foxtail's on its last legs, and that one seems to be suffering from just about every ailment you can think of. But it does have a new decent looking frond, but that could be because the palm is trying to put all the energy into its newest frond there. So yeah, so that's going to be the difference between the foxtails and royals. Know that if you're going to plant a foxtail, you do want good drainage and a lot of water. Now with a royal, you actually want bad drainage and a lot of water. And note that wherever you plant, even the foxtails, wherever you plant them, note that even if the fronds are not as big as royals, you're going to want to plant them away from the driveways and other areas where people might be going, because they do have humongous seeds. Not humongous, but they're big for a palm. They're the size of about a golf ball. And I have been hit by a fallen bract of foxtails. Not intentionally, but I was trying to saw off a bract and it fell on me while someone else sawed it off. I tried to catch it. That was a terrible idea. Don't ever try that. And so that's the upside of royals. Their seed bracts are tiny. You really can't get hurt by them. They're the size of there's like a small date, kind of like a small date palm seed, small phoenix seed, like a robolini, maybe a little bit bigger than that. So yeah, that's going to be the foxtail and royal comparison. I always come back to this, for some reason I always come back to this parking lot to make a video, but it's good to kind of make a video over the years to see how palms develop, to see if I was right, and to see how they end up doing. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel and want to see more tropical plant reviews, mostly palms, go ahead and subscribe, hit that bell notification. Sometimes I go live, and hope to see everyone next time. Thanks for watching.